This podcast is part of the Pull Up a Chair podcast network. Let's build community through connection, conversation, and collaboration.
I never wanna get used to the sound you whispering in my ear.
Cringe With Me brings you all the best cringy, funny, and relatable content you could ask for. From the best of Reddit to the most outrageous advice columns, Ryan and V have a grand story to tell you. Check us out every Wednesday, your favorite podcast directory, and by the end, you'll cringe with me. Alright guys, welcome back. Today it's my turn, and I'm reading something off of r/Ask Reddit.
Oh, great.
The title of it is, What is the most awkward date you've been on? Where and with who?
Oh, no.
You're smiling so big. That means you got a good story. So I'm going to read of what I think are the best responses, and then Ryan's going to share his story because he's smiling like a gremlin.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have awkward date stories. No.
Yeah, you do. Totally. Okay. So the first one is going to be from Vault 13 Rev, and it says, So, I was once unknowingly on a date with a gay guy, but I'm not gay.
Ooh,
It was a guy from work. At one point, he asked me if we wanted to go out for drinks, which is something I do a lot with my fellow coworkers. At the end, he kissed me, and I had to tell him I wasn't gay.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. And then he has to go back to work with this guy. Is where I was like, oh, the cringe.
So it's funny because I feel like where I put in that situation, I don't think that I would actually be the one who was embarrassed. I could see how the one who asked him out would be embarrassed. I could see that feeling being like, I totally thought this was a thing. Apparently it wasn't. But as a person who got kissed, I think I would just be like, all right, like, clearly there was a misunderstanding, but I'm not upset. We just like, I'm like, explain like, sorry, this isn't what I'm into or whatever, and like move on. But maybe psychologically I'm not the right person to answer that question.
Yeah. See, I would feel bad for, regardless of the person's gender who was kissing me, making them, for whatever reason, believe it was a date. Because I like friend dates a lot.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about this on this podcast. I love to hang out one-on-one with a person in what is typically considered a romantic setting, but it's not a romantic setting because you're just hanging out with a friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been in that situation, and so I felt it in my core. It's like, oh, I've been there, you poor thing. And then the added thing of couldn't possibly be attracted to the person because of their sexuality is just that extra gut punch.
Yeah. I think nobody feels good in this situation.
No, nobody feels good. Except maybe the waiter who got a great story to tell.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So the next one is Reload Freak, who said, met up with a very attractive Chinese girl for lunch. It turns out she had been communicating with me via Google Translator prior to our meet in person, and can't communicate very well in face-to-face interactions without gestures. I spent 5 awkward hours with her. No chemistry, but a lot of comedy.
Oh, man. That sounds like a logistical challenge, but also, like, major props to this girl for being like, fuck it, I'm gonna wing it. I got this.
Right?
I've got Google Translate and some excellent charade skills. Let's go. Like, this girl's my hero.
I wish I had her cojones, because oh my god.
Yeah, seriously, that is impressive. Now I want to just go to another country and try this.
Oh my god, Ryan, no. You'll never come home. They're just going to be like, we're going to keep him.
I mean, I don't know.
He's interesting.
I'd be funny, hopefully. But
I think you're funny. All right, so the next one is from Repurg01. While I was hanging out with a female friend at the park last year, her friend just walked up and said that they were dating, but she didn't mind me being on a first date because first dates never lead to shit. She was serious. I thought it was a joke.
Wait, sorry. I'm not sure if I'm following this.
So a dude was on a date with a girl. Mm-hmm. Another girl came up and is like, that is my girlfriend. But I don't mind that you're on a first date, because first dates never lead to anything.
Okay. I have a lot to unpack here.
I feel like cringe.
Yeah.
Just
If first dates never lead to shit, there wouldn't be second dates, and therefore there wouldn't be any dates. Like, there has to be a first date, chronologically speaking. So, like...
And it's also like she was low-key calling her girlfriend a hoe.
Oh.
That was my first thing.
Oh,
That was my first thought when I read it. It was like, oh, okay, I get dissing your partner, but like...
I mean, not the energy I'm going to bring into meeting somebody, especially one that's interested in my companion, but holy shit, like, what? Also...
Why would you even approach it? Okay, if you're truly fine with your significant other seeing other people, why would you interrupt their date?
Maybe this is like that, like, being overly communicative, right? Like, oh, you know what? I want to make sure they know that I'm cool with this. Maybe she assumed, as I would, that if my partner were going on a date with someone else, the other person would be aware of my existence. You know, I would just make that assumption. I would be like, yeah, you know, I hope they know that I am dating this person. So with that assumption in mind, they already know about me, and they're going on this date anyway. I'm like, hey, I just want to make sure they know. We're cool, it's good, it's fine.
But what about that last line? First dates don't lead.
Yeah, see, that seems more like a self-reassurance thing.
No.
I'm
okay. I'm okay. They don't love this. I'm okay.
Yeah.
Sounds stressful.
It sounds like unintentional polyamory is what it sounds like.
Unintentional polyamory.
It's the... Or maybe it's intentional. Maybe they had a conversation about this. Who knows? We don't have enough context.
Okay, let me see. One more, and then we're going to get on to your stories, because I think you have great ones. So this one's from 3 Sheets, because it's Reddit, you know, they have to have the extra Z's.
Oh, yeah. No.
You look exhausted just hearing that.
I was just like...
All right. Maybe not a date. I was going to a nude-allowed strip joint with this girl. I was kind of thinking of dating. We were both really into it, and she seemed more into the stripper doing a pelvic thrust and throwing her vagina into the air than I did. I felt greasy afterwards and knew it wasn't going to work out. She's currently dating a happily married to another person woman.
There's a lot of words there. Not sure I got all of them, but...
Yeah, no, I had to read this one a couple times because I was a little confused. So... A dude is going on a date with a girl he's into to a strip bar.
Yeah, so first, let's stop there for a moment, because what is a nude allowed strip? I've never heard of this. Is this a thing?
A lot of strip bars require at least undergarments. This one allows full nudity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're going to an intense strip bar.
This is showing my inexperience, having never been to.
And it's making me look like a hoe, and that's fine.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I think it's a more common thing. A thing I never experienced. Okay, so that's what they mean by that. Cool.
Yes.
Moving on. She seemed more interested in the girls than he was, which made him uncomfortable.
And made him feel greasy.
Yeah, this feels like judging someone else for being more into a thing that you're into, which is
like they went together.
Right.
Like, if you were uncomfortable with strippers, don't go to a strip bar.
Or it's almost like he expected her to be uncomfortable and then was upset she wasn't.
Oh, that's extra uncomfortable.
Right? Like, that feels kind of cringy to me. Like, oh yeah, like, I expect her to be uncomfortable, and then she's like totally fine with the situation, and you're like, I don't like this anymore.
But now she's happily married to a married woman.
Okay.
Or she's happily with a married woman.
Okay. So maybe he's upset that she's into girls at all, or more into girls than she was into him?
Yeah, because it sounds like this girl was bi, and he's upset. Because I've experienced this, where a guy's like, oh, you're into women too? Okay, well, you must be mostly into men, except for like an encounter for me to be happy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and then they'll try to frame it like you're the bad guy.
I've definitely experienced that kind of, like, by targeting of like, well, if you're into both, then you better be more into me or not talk about being into like other things around me kind of thing. Some people just can't handle that, I think.
Yeah. I thought I had to read it a couple times. He threw in a lot of words. It kind of felt like word vomit. Yeah. But I think if he expanded his sentences, it would have been more clear. But it was like, okay, so the awkward date with the strip bar. And now you're jelly that she's with somebody else. But it's also, like, not completely clear if she's with a woman who's married to somebody else or if she's married to a woman. She's with a happily married woman. Yeah.
I don't think that that's even the relevant part of it, so I don't think it matters. I think it's just that she's with a woman. I think ultimately his gripe is her bisexuality. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it seems to be the thing that he is targeting, the thing that makes him feel greasy.
Yeah. All right, do you want to do one more, or do you want to jump into your stuff?
Let's do one more.
Okay, so this next one's from Zombie Bisquick.
I love that name.
Right? I kind of want their brain pancakes.
I'm just thinking of like a zombie Pillsbury Doughboy, and I'm loving that image.
Beautiful. Okay. So Zombie, who I don't know what their gender is, so I was about to say he, but I honestly don't know. They said, had a guy in college take me on a date to Starbucks, then Petco, then Bevmo, then try to get into my pants on the first date while we were watching a movie. Needless to say, that relationship did not last beyond that day.
I think I'm missing the part where this is awkward. I mean,
I also felt that, because when I first read it, I was all like, that sounds like something I would have done in college. Like, oh yeah, go get coffee, do like a couple errands together, and then end with the movie.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is a personal experience thing, but like recently, one of the things that my partner and I do for dates is going to pet stores because we really like looking at all the reptiles.
But you and your partner have been together for a while. This
Sure.
is their first time together.
Yeah, but I'm saying that finding the joy of that, I would totally take someone to a pet store as a date to be like, let's look at all the cute animals and like what, like, maybe joke about which ones you'd like to keep or like what your future pet is going to be. Like that. That seems like an entertaining enough date activity that I wouldn't see that as a negative thing.
All right, but the comment's hilarious. The comment on this one is like, dude, why pay for a pet when you can just take your date to Petco? Hashtag dogs get you dates.
Dogs get you dates. Oh.
That was really funny.
Is that the energy? Like, I don't have a dog to get you excited to spend time with me, so I'll take you where there are dogs. And see if I can channel that energy.
See, I thought that was hilarious. I was like, it's just like, that's a little like, But then I read the comment, it was just like, oh, this is great. Mm-hmm. This is great. Because dogs, like, don't quote me on it, but I remember reading somewhere that profiles with animals in it typically get more clicks on dating sites.
Oh yeah, that's a measurable statistic.
I'm sure it is somewhere, but I honestly can't remember where I read it. I hope it's not an onion piece.
I think that's a legitimate statistic.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other thing is like it seemed like this person was offended that this person wanted to sleep with them on the first date, which I can get being like, I'm not into that, but that being a deal breaker by itself seems a little like an overreaction to me. Like,
well, is it like the stage of the date that it started at Starbucks, it went to Petco, then Bevmo, then a movie, and then they wanted sex? Would it have been better if they went from Starbucks to sex?
I don't know. Like that's the thing. I'm missing the part where this is upsetting because I'm like, okay, yeah, you did all these date things, you did a bunch of different stuff. Sounds like it must have been a decent date if you did all these things and then still ended up back at your house to watch a movie.
Unless it's all in the same parking complex.
Oh, that's a funny thought, but even if we allow for that to be a thing, it still seems like the date went well enough. You ended up back at your place to watch a movie, and this person expressed their interest in more physical intimacy, and then the person gets so offended they don't think that the relationship's going anywhere. Like,
well, I mean, the relationship was one day. See, now I don't think that just because you're on a date with a person necessarily means you're on a relationship.
Yeah,
because I did plenty of one-off dates in college.
Like, the only thing I can assume is, like, maybe this person was very pushy. Because if that's the case, I could see how that'd be like, nah, deal breaker, get out of here. But, like, if the person's like, I would like to do this thing, or, like, trying to initiate, and you're like, no, and the person's like, respect,
I wish I had a camera on your face when you said, I would like to do this.
Oh, my God. My facial expressions have a mind of their own. But this is an audio medium, so we don't...
You're safe for now.
It's fine.
You're safe for now.
But yeah, like, unless the person's being overly pushy about it, I don't think, like, I think that not going on a date with someone because they were interested in having sex with you on the first date is like, I don't know. Seems kind of weird to me. But for some people, it's a value thing, I guess.
It was awkward enough for them to post it.
Yeah.
It just makes me want more details. And also, whoever commented on it is so right. But I gotta know, what was your most awkward date ever?
I gotta think about this for a minute.
Like, you're thinking, I got an awkward date. It's definitely not a first date, but it was pretty bad.
Okay.
All right, so Mike and I were on a break, but not like a friend's date, but like an actual, it's like, hey, let's just be friends for a while. Maybe down the road we'll try again.
Mm-hmm.
So I went out on 2 dates with this dude who, for the purposes of this podcast, I'll call him Roy. Yeah. So I went on the first date with Roy, really great. Him and I kicked it off. Second date, I asked him if he wanted to be exclusive because I really liked him, and he started to cry, and I was like, what's wrong? And he's like, I thought we already were. And I cut it off with a couple other people I was talking to, and he was really upset with me. He thought we were like a couple. And he asked me, he's like, have you been out with anybody else? And I was like, oh yeah. I enlisted people. A lot of people.
Oh.
Yeah, I felt so bad because he was like really genuinely hurt because he thought we were an item. We'd been on 2 dates, but we had been talking for like a whole week. A few days later, my current husband and I got back together, and I told him about it. He thought it was the funniest thing. And I still, to this day, you know your name isn't Roy, but if you listen to this, I am so sorry. I'm so genuinely sorry. I did not mean to hurt your feelings.
That's
that's
pretty brutal.
I should have known, though, because he was the only guy that wanted to pay for my meal. And I insisted on paying for myself both times we were out. And the first time, he didn't let me, but I bought dessert, and he was fine with that. And I was like, this is weird.
Okay.
And the second time he let me, though, he still didn't want to. Even after we had that conversation, he still wanted to pay for my meal.
Wow.
Yeah.
True gentleman right there.
Yeah, no, I still
runs deep.
I feel like such an asshole still. I did not. He was such a nice guy. He didn't deserve that. There's some guys that I went out with who definitely deserve that, but not him. No.
That's a bummer. Yeah, those kind of miscommunications like relationships can be a little painful.
It was so painful. I still feel bad. Like I never thought I'd make a grown man cry, but he teared up in front of me. There was like droplets going down his face.
Yeah, for some people, I think it's just an easier reaction than others, especially if you didn't grow up with the kind of toxic mindset of not being allowed to cry. I think if you don't grow up with that being shoved down your throat, which would hard to imagine as a male in America, but assuming you didn't have that beat into you when you were young, then crying can come pretty easy. But I'm a crier. I cry all kinds of shit.
Oh my god, how do I end up with criers? Because Kat's a crier too, and I freak out every time she cries. I'm like, I don't know how to deal with this. We don't cry in my family.
Oh, I have the ridiculous thing. This is an embarrassing story, but not a date story. But like, I'm the kind of person that like tears up at commercials, right? Like, I can find a commercial emotionally evocative enough that I am shedding tears, and I'm like, why did this give me feels?
Oh,
why is that happening right now? Like, any movie that has any sort of emotion to it, I will most likely cry at some point during this movie. I think this is a common one for people, but like the first 5 minutes of the movie Up, Pixar's Up, I was dying. I was like, there were like tissues everywhere. I was a snotty mess. It's like, and like, that was not the first time I've seen that movie. Probably like the third or fourth time. I'm still that person, right? Like I am a cry reactive person.
Oh no, you poor baby.
No, it's fine. It's not gonna hurt to cry. Like whatever. Like crying isn't bad by itself. It's just it's definitely something I got picked on for when I was younger. Right?
See, I was picked on for crying too, and so now if I'm crying, shit's really bad.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. You have repressed the reaction, so when it finally does bubble forth, it's like, oof.
Oh, yeah, no, and I ugly cry. It ain't no cute princess couple teardrops. There's snot, and I'm shaking, and I get angry, and it's just like, nope, no thank you. It was beaten out of me as a child.
Yep, that'll do it.
Yeah. But that awkward story. We'll see you guys next week. And next week we have a little surprise for you at the beginning of the episode.
Oh, yeah.
So be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. Bye. It was awkward.
Yeah, I was like, what?
You gotta say goodbye, Ryan.
Why
are you making this date awkward?
Okay, look. I'm not the one who normally says goodbye first. I thought you said goodbye first. I didn't think you said goodbye, so I was waiting for you to say goodbye so I could say goodbye.
Connect with us. Follow us on social media. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, at Cringe With Me. Everything is linked in the description of this podcast. Cringe With Me podcast is a production of Pull Up the Chair Foundation. All opinions in this podcast belong to the host and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Pull Up a Chair podcast network.
I never wanna get used to the sound you whispering in my ear.
Hello, I am Patrick.
And I'm Andrew. And I'm Christian.
And I'm Allie.
And we are Rad Theater, a podcast where a bunch of friends play role-playing games and share a single brain cell, and the GM doesn't always have it. Oh, and it's theater spelled the correct way, Theatre.